the Book of Books at the Library of Libraries. And if you've been here in person, it is incredible. And we're going to watch the turning of the page. But as we do, we just launch another poll question. How much would a single leaf from the Gutenberg Bible be worth today? Those who would like to guess, feel free. And I'm not sure why she wasn't wearing gloves. That question came up quite a bit. I'll have to ask, send in an inquiry. Very good. You must have watched that version or that episode of the show on History Channel about the pawn shop where they bring in different objects. A leaf from the Gutenberg Bible was brought in on that show, and the starting price, $80,000 US for a single leaf of the Gutenberg Bible. $80,000 US. Now, Johannes Gutenberg changed the course of history. The impact of the printed page, off the charts. It literally brought mankind out of the Dark Ages into the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment. Before the Gutenberg press, just think about the spiritual aspect. How many people could hold a Bible, could read a Bible in their lifetime? It took 10 months to produce one Bible by hand. 10 months. Gutenberg's press, this masterpiece, was produced in 10 days. Now that doesn't seem impressive, but when you compare it to 10 months, wow. Now Gutenberg, the reason his book is so highly prized, 80,000 a leaf, is because not only is it the first book printed, he made 180 Bibles. Only 20 have survived to our day. So there's only 20 left, complete Bibles like we see here. In addition, each page was carefully decorated by hand by skilled artisans because Gutenberg was afraid if he didn't make it pretty, he wouldn't sell his Bible. His competition were the works of art, the illuminated manuscripts. So that's why the Gutenberg Bible, not only the first book printed in the Western world, and probably the entire world, but it's also one of the most beautiful books ever produced. A complete 2-volume edition, like we see here, the complete Bible, would be worth at least $50 million, but it's probably worth $500 million US. For lovers of truth, it's priceless. How much do I esteem my personal copy of God's word of truth? Where would I be without it? So that's the Gutenberg Bible. And I forgot to mention there is one leaf, an original page at Warwick, the Bible in the Divine Name. The Book of Books at the Library of Libraries. So that was part 1. Jehovah God is the source of all light and truth. Part 2, darkness and falsehood. This is a painting. We're back at the art gallery. We see that tragic moment that King Solomon went to the dark side. A question came in. It was printed in Latin because that was the only language the church would authorize. But now the impact is, now the Bible is available. Now it's available like never before. Now translation begins, and that changes everything. Part 2, darkness and falsehood. Besides Jesus Christ, no other man was as enlightened as King Solomon, and even he went to the dark side, sacrificing to the idols. All spiritual darkness and falsehood has its origin, the rebellion in Eden. And this painting, Paradise Lost by Paul Gauguin, captures the tragic origins of darkness and falsehood. Two scenes in one painting. Paul Gauguin was another individual who was searching for the truth. You may recall this fascinating article in the 2005 Awake, An Artist's Search for Happiness in Paradise. The first sentence ties in quite nicely with the painting we just saw. Ever since Adam lost paradise, his descendants have been on a quest to regain it. And that was Paul Gauguin, searching for paradise lost. Gauguin was from France. Soyez le bienvenu à Paris, the city of lights. If you've been to Paris, well, one, you don't want to fall in the Seine River because you'll be insane. Oui, oui. But also the d'Orsay, if you've been to the d'Orsay, what a beautiful museum. This is my favorite museum in the world. It used to be a train station converted into a beautiful art gallery, the Mecca of Impressionism. If you like Impressionism, the artist uses quick brushstrokes to try to capture the light just as it appears. And so you have Monet, Degas, Van Gogh, Manet, Renoir, and Gauguin, and many, many more. They're all here at the d'Orsay. So Gauguin definitely had his issues, like many artists, but he was searching for the meaning of life, and that quest took him from France to the ends of the earth. We're not going to quite go down under, but we're going to the South Pacific, the French Pacific island of Tahiti. And it's here that we have the Paul Gauguin Museum. It was in Tahiti that he discovered his particular style as an impressionist. And his greatest works, his most prized paintings today, are from this time period. At the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, his masterpiece, which has also been featured in one of our publications, Is There a Creator Who Cares for You? And this painting is entitled, Where Do We Come From? Where are we going? What are we? Gauguin was searching for the truth, for the meaning of life, of our existence. And back at Yale, another painting from the same time period, he captured the tragic origin of falsehood, the first lie ever told. The angel that became Satan the devil did not stand fast in the truth. He is the father of the lie. Eve was deceived. Adam was not. He willfully disobeyed. He willfully turned his back on the source of light and truth and rejected the true God's sovereignty. And from this moment, a cherub expels Adam and Eve. Paradise is lost. Perfect life. Sin and death enter the world. And from this moment, the majority of their descendants have shunned the light, rejected the true God's sovereignty. And this has resulted in darkness, as we know too well. So this is that tragic moment when darkness and falsehood enter the world. Now, if you would like to purchase Paul Gauguin's Paradise Lost, it's a small painting. If you'd like to purchase it or bring it home for your living room, how much would it be worth today? $10, your 5-year-old paints like that. Some don't appreciate the impressionist style. I was actually giving a tour one day And there was a very distinguished gentleman who was an art critic and scholar and appraiser. And right away he answered, this painting, starting price, 50 million US dollars. Can you imagine? The combination, though, of Gauguin's story and his style make his painting so prized today. If Paradise Lost is worth 50 million, Paradise Regained is going to be priceless. And at the end of the tour, show and tell for the children, those that want to share Paradise Regained, will be happy to see that. And wow, yeah, congratulations, 44% of you answered correctly. So that's the origin. We're going to just briefly discuss, we don't want to depress anyone, but let's go see some examples of religious darkness and religious falsehood. The first example, darkness. And yeah, that was me. I was not touching the painting. This is an interesting
Uh-oh.
Just muted myself. Allegorical painting full of symbolism from 1570, The Triumph of Mars. We think of perhaps a planet, a month, a candy bar. If you're a millennial, a singer, Bruno, many things come to our mind when we hear the word Mars. But the artist had in mind the god of war. And the artist, the French artist, Antoine Caron, is heartbroken because Paris, the city of light, is in darkness. The wars of religion are ripping apart his beloved France. The charioteer of Mars, Fury, leads his horses, devastation and destruction, just wreaking havoc. The wars of religion brought famine. Look at her gnawing on the bone. The wars of religion, it was blasphemy. Why? Christians were slaughtering Christians. The wars of religion were between Christians, Catholics against Protestants. It was dark, it was cruel. And during this dark time, in the 1550s and on, some 30 years, you can Google it, Wars of Religion, France. 3 million French were massacred as a result of the wars or famine that resulted. 3 million people died, Christians, murdering Christians. That is dark. How many tens of millions, billions, have died over the centuries because of religion? That's the darkness of false religion. And we contrast that, the light of true Christianity, where brotherly love unites, results in peace and joy. And we see that even culturally, socially, there's conflict, racially, there's conflict in this world, but not among God's people. True Christians, we love each other. And that's beautiful. That is the light of true Christianity. I gave this tour recently to some brothers from Singapore. Many of them had served in prison for not going to war. So that's the triumph of Mars, the darkness of false religion. Let's see, men are from Mars, they say, women are from Venus. We'll see some examples of religious falsehood in this bizarre painting from the Dark Ages, from the 1200s. The Madonna and Child. It's damaged at the base. Candles, incense. This was above the altar. This mother goddess is being worshipped, prayed to. There's no tetragrammaton here. But the motif of a mother goddess, we have to be honest. 3,000 years before Mary and Jesus, Isis and Horus, the ancient Egyptian mother goddess, nursing baby Horus. And they look so identical, some Christians in Egypt confuse the two. Mary is venerated as the Queen of Heaven. That's why she wears two colors in Christendom's depictions. She wears the color blue because the sky is blue, and that color identifies her as the Queen of the Sky. She wears the color scarlet because she's a queen, and that's a color of royalty. Here's another example, the Virgen de Guadalupe. I learned recently the ladybug is scarlet, right? That was one of Mary's colors, and that's why it's called the ladybug. It's a scarlet color, like Our Lady, the Queen of Heaven. In Spanish, it's Mariquita, Maria. The ladybug has 7 dots, which supposedly represent the 7 joys, the 7 sorrows of the Virgin. So clearly we're seeing this mother goddess, again, fertility goddess. Every pagan religion on earth has a mother goddess, a fertility goddess. There's more symbols that predate Christianity, that come from pagan, go back to Babylon. Here we have the sun disk, ancient Babylon. This is the Babylonian Trinity, the triad. Shamash, the sun god. That solar disk becomes the halo in Christendom, Buddhism, Hinduism. Ancient Egyptians had the sun disk. The solar disk appears everywhere, the halo, sun worship. We'll talk about the moon, the crescent moon, later on. It is interesting below the Virgen de Guadalupe, the crescent moon. The 8-pointed star, that's Venus in Babylon. And Venus was the symbol of the love goddess, the fertility goddess, Ishtar. Women are from Venus, they say. Venus was the love goddess in Rome. But the planet Venus was the symbol of Ishtar, the Queen of Heaven, the fertility goddess of Babylon. It's an 8-pointed star, and that symbol appears twice on Mary's garments. The 8-pointed star appears everywhere on the Virgen de Guadalupe. If you go to Chichen Itza in Mexico, the Mayan sacred site where the impressive pyramid, step pyramid is, adjacent to that, the Temple of Venus, the Mayan fertility goddess. What appears on the Temple of Venus to the Mayans? The 8-pointed star. It goes back to Babel, back to Babylon. Women are from Venus, they say. Venus was Ishtar, the love goddess. So it could be an amazing coincidence, but we're clearly seeing pagan origins here in this Christian painting. Jesus depicted as a helpless babe or as a dying man on a cross. And most, probably 98, 99% of the world's devout Christians would sincerely believe the cross is the symbol of Christianity. Now our faith, our Christian faith, our hope is based on the ransom sacrifice. There is no doubt. But we do not worship or venerate a cross or have it as a symbol, a good luck charm. Why not? Well, we've learned that the cross does not become Christian until after Constantine in 312 of our era. Constantine, the pagan Roman emperor, was desperate to bring his empire together, and he saw the power of religion to do so. He worshipped the sun god, Sol Invictus. The truth is, the cross is a symbol connected to solar worship. In Babylon, Shamash, another symbol, had a four-pointed star in the middle of the halo. Look at Jesus. There's a cross in the halo. Sun worship. It's a symbol of life, fertility, rebirth, connected to sun worship and the zodiac and astrology. Constantine worshipped the sun. Instead of worshiping the sun god, we'll worship the Son of God on Sunday. So it's only after Constantine, the truth is, it's only after Constantine the cross is used as a Christian symbol of worship, veneration. This painting is well after Constantine, the 1200s, the Dark Ages. I was surprised to learn the oldest known artistic representation of Jesus Christ on a cross used in worship. This is it, 586. This is the oldest known painting of Jesus on a cross. That's a long time after Constantine. Now we're looking at these pictures because we want to note the iconography, what we're seeing in the 1200s, how Jesus Christ, Mary, the Apostle Peter, how they're depicted in art. We see the pagan influence. This is the 1200s, the Dark Ages. But we're going to go back to the 200s before Constantine, the grand finale on display at Yale University Art Gallery, the oldest known Christian works of art. They were found not in a church. They were discovered unearthed in a Christian place of worship, a private home, frescoes on the walls, and they were brought to Yale. So remember what we see here. We'll make a contrast at the end. To wrap up part 2, we're going back to Babylon. Babel, confusion. Babylon, always opposed to the true worship, enemy of God's people. This is processional way. Babylon in its heyday was like New York City. The Ishtar Gate was like Times Square. Processional way was like Broadway. They had their New Year's Day parade, the gods of Babylon. Every great museum in the world, I'm sure you've been to one, what do they have? Glazed bricks that came out of Nebuchadnezzar's brick ovens that were either on the Ishtar Gate or marching down processional way. Yale University is no exception. There's an original glazed brick lion over 2,500 years old that marched down processional way. Most likely Daniel and the 3 faithful Hebrews that would have seen this roaring lion as they walked down processional way. The lion is not just any ordinary lion. It has wings, it has horns. It's a mythological creature, and it invoked the power of the Queen of Heaven herself. Now this surprised me. The winged lion with horns was a symbol of Ishtar, the Queen of Heaven, the fertility, the love goddess. But she was also the goddess of war, the protective goddess of Babylon. And Ishtar rode the beast. Dual characteristics, immorality and violence. What does that remind Bible students of? A name, a mystery. Babylon the Great. Definitely not Beauty and the Beast. But like Ishtar, what a symbol. Like Ishtar, immorality. She's an immoral woman, but also bloodshed. She's drunk with the blood of the holy ones. You throw in some spiritism, that is a toxic combination. What an appropriate symbol of the world empire of false religion that is diabolically opposed to true, pure worship. How grateful we are to have escaped from Babylon the Great. So that's part 2, darkness and falsehood, goes back to Babylon according to the Bible. Part 3, we want to have a happy ending, shining through the darkness. We're going to explore an ancient city in the Middle East that was on the Euphrates, not far from Babylon. We're going to see the influence of Babylon the Great. But in this ancient Syrian city was a Christian community. And we'll see the oldest archaeological remains of Christianity, how light and truth prevail. Here's the ancient ruins of Babylon, the alleged site of the Tower of Babel, now a desolate ruin, never rebuilt. Saddam Hussein tried, that didn't go well. But on the Euphrates, across the border from Iraq, in modern-day Syria is an ancient city called Dura Europos. I'm going to be honest, I had never heard of Dura Europos. I did recall Palmyra. Palmyra was the sister city of Dura Europos and where Zenobia was from. But what makes Dura Europos so extraordinary? Let's watch a brief clip from this documentary. I highly recommend it if you have the opportunity. It's on YouTube. Dura Europos, the life, death, and resurrection of an ancient city. We'll just watch the first minute or so.
In the isolated windswept desert of eastern Syria, only an hour's drive west of the Iraqi border, is the long-forgotten Hellenistic walled city of Dura Europos. Although the existence of Dura Europos was long known through literary sources, it was only rediscovered in 1920 by British troops. Major archaeological diggings were then carried out in the 1920s and 1930s by French and American teams. The finds were amazingly well preserved and the site soon became known as the Pompeii of the desert. To understand its archaeological significance, one has to understand its history.
The Pompeii of the desert, where East met West, rediscovered 100 years ago, 1920 by the British, and one of the archaeological teams was Yale University. So check out the documentary if you get a chance, The Life, Death, and Resurrection of an Ancient City. It's only 15 minutes. It's well worth it. The city has two names. Dura is the Syrian or Aramaic name. It means fortress or stronghold. That's what the city was. You think of something durable, something strong. And the strategic location was on the Euphrates high plateau walled city. It was an important strong empires would fight to control. You controlled this region, you controlled the trade routes. So Dura, the Aramaic word, the Bible mentions a place named Dura, the plain of Dura. Could this be the location? I don't know. It's close to Babylon geographically,